I would now like to introduce a former student of Julian's and one of our newest colleagues in the history department, a great example of Julian's influence and mentorship, Gilbert Estrada.
I don't like microphones. I'd rather do it in person. Is this okay? So I have known Julian for about half my life. In 1991, I registered at Long Beach City College. Julian Delgado, it was his first year, basically his first history class, and I was his first student. He made a great impact in my life. I actually have a couple of I still have some of the books that we used in this class. We read Malcolm X's autobiography, Let the Trumpet Sound, on Martin Luther King, The Feminine Mystique, and I still remember those days. I remember him very GQ at the time, and I remember that he was coming in from this Air Force job where he couldn't talk about, but that only added to the mystique of this guy who actually looked like an FBI agent, all black, white shirt, black tie, and that was back in the day. I actually had to add that course through an ad card that he had to sign in, and I waited in the line for about 5 hours to add that. So the students really don't know how good you have it today, where you can do it online. So I was a student, and like 70 pounds ago, in the early 90s. I've known him for 25 years. I was also he was also my mentor here at Long Beach City College. 2010, 2011. Then I also co-taught a course with him, and now became a full-time colleague. And then now I'm teaching his courses. So I've really run the gamut of Julian, from student to mentee to colleague to helping out as much as he possibly can. I mean, I could say the usual. Julian has inspired me. I mean, part of the reason why I went on to get my PhD, because of people that believed that I had the capabilities of doing something than just working at UPS for the rest of my life. And I think everybody remembers somebody. Julian, I would say, was one of those who made things better, and I think I'm in a better place because of him. I'm very glad to be here at Long Beach City College, and I'm very glad to carry the torch, if you will, from some of the things I learned a long time ago. And maybe as I end right now, I just maybe specifically want to speak to the students who are here, because as a former student of Julian was big, as we know, in social justice. So we are here at this great college learning a lot of great things, but without putting knowledge to use, it's useless, right? It's using history to move social justice forward. And that's really, I think, Julian's kind of final message, right? That it's great to get good grades and to learn a lot, but to do something with that information in order to make the world better as you see fit. So I think with that, I will say thank you very much to everybody, Rose, and to Julian. I still talk about him in the present tense too. So thank you.
Before we have President Oakley come up here, we're going to have, wait just one moment, we're going to have the last, a video which was recorded all the way in Oregon, of a former student who is now in a graduate program. And his name's Christopher Clayton Smith. Many of the historians had him. David, I know that Craig did as well, and so did I. And when I posted on Facebook something about Julian's passing. There was just, he contacted me, and he created this video for Julian, and I think it encapsulates so much of what he was and how his influence ripples, and it continues on. So please, Myra, thank you. Christopher Clayton Smith is here via video.
Hello, my name is Christopher Smith, and I'm a PhD candidate in history at the University of Oregon. I attended Long Beach City College from 2006 to 2009 as a student returning to the classroom after more than 10 years. Many things happened to me during my time at LBCC. I discovered my love of studying history, I met the woman who would later become my wife, and I formed relationships with wonderful faculty members whose dedication to students directly influenced my desire to continue a path of higher education. Professor Julian Delgadio was one of these professors. I remember clearly talking with him one day after class and telling him how much I admired and was inspired by intellectuals such as himself. Without a pause, he looked at me and said, "Well, I feel the same about you." I must have made a strange face because he followed that by saying, "You're an intellectual too, you know." I didn't. No one had ever said anything like that to me before. His casual confidence in me resonates with me still to this day. I went on from LBCC to graduate with honors from UCLA in history. I've had many wonderful professors in my college career, but few have instilled such confidence and pride in my academic work as Julian Delgadio. With this one gesture, he made an immense impact in my life. I still admire the hell out of him. To Professor Julian Delgadio, thank you, sir. Good night, and may you rest in peace.
I think that all you can say there is wow. And to realize that that is just, one example of the countless students that Julian has served over time, and that's the way he always worked with students. He always saw them as his intellectual equals, and he tried to instill in them that sense of their power, the power of their knowledge, the power of their acts, the power of their hearts. And so now, it's my great pleasure to introduce the Superintendent President of Long Beach City College, Eloy Oakley.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for being here. I certainly wanted to make sure I came by for many reasons, but most importantly because I wanted to not only represent myself, but to represent the nearly 90 years of history of Long Beach City College. And why do I say that? I say that because there are, in any life of an organization like Long Beach City College, there are a handful of people that have a key impact on the culture of an organization. And you can read about the almost 90-year history of Long Beach City College in a number of publications and hear about all the people who impacted this college. And we see pictures of them from time to time. I'm proud to say that the culture of Long Beach City College was touched and shaped by Julian. And I'm proud to represent that today. Certainly since the day I came to this college, he immediately reached out to me. We've always been good friends since then and colleagues. He is someone who I could always reach out to, and he would reach out to me, and we would just talk about things. Talk about what's going on at the college. He'd ask me how I was doing, and we would have a great laugh about what was going on, the drama of the day. Julian was also my favorite socialist. I always enjoyed, I have a handful of pictures of presidents in my office, and when I realized he was a socialist, I always made sure that my Reagan picture was out in full view when he came into my office, because it allowed me an opportunity to, yank his chain and get into a conversation about our differing beliefs, although mostly we were on the same sheet of music, but I always enjoyed giving him a hard time. So you've heard many things about Julian today, and I won't repeat all of them. He is someone very special to this college and will always be a part of this college. And I'm very proud that very proud to say that we are a much better college because of him. As a person, as a human being, and really as someone that you could always point to and say, that is a quality faculty member. That is a person who has given everything he has to his profession. And he will always be someone I look to for inspiration, to wake up in the morning, come back to work, and to keep doing the work that we do. And I know that's what he wants us all to do, is to keep making this college better. And I hope that we all join him in continuing to make this college better. So thank you, Julian, for everything you've done for this college, for our students, and for me personally. And thank you all for being here this afternoon.
So at this point, we would like to turn the microphone over to anyone else who is joining us today who has a few things to say regarding Julian, a story, a memory, anything and all that you'd like to express. And we'd ask that, as best you can, if you could keep your comments, your remembrances, to about 3 minutes or so. So, yeah, so if you'd like to come up and share something about Julian, please come up here and line up, and we'll go through one by one. And thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Chavez, a former student of Professor Delgadio's. I had him around springtime last year. Is anybody a history major here? Do you have any other history majors? Okay, a small number. I wish there was more, and so would Professor Delgadio say the same. As all of you know, when you come to a class, your first day, you come with your big notebook, ready, nice and clean, with your pencil, and ready to take a ton of notes. If you were in the honors program, you knew that you had to take a ton of notes. Failure to do so results in failure. And I remember walking in on my first day to Professor Delgadio's class. I had my notebook out, ready to take a ton of notes, and it was a history class, and I'm a history major, so I guess I had to take a ton of notes. And the lecture began, and I realized that I just couldn't keep up, because he was giving so much rich information in his lecture that I would rather pay attention to him than take notes. He was a storyteller. He told the story of our people. He told the story of Long Beach. And that was something that was personal to me as a Long Beach resident and somebody who loves history. I found that listening to him was bringing me back to the times when our ancient ancestors used to sit by the fire and listen to the stories of their ancestors. And in much the same way, Professor Delgadio would do that through his lectures. I realized that I didn't have to pay attention so much to my notes anymore because the information that he was giving me was so well said that it just stayed in the mind. It was, I have to say, one of the most interesting classes that I've ever taken, and I mean that in the best of ways. Because in most history classes, okay, you follow by the book, you follow by the this and this and that. And I hope I'm not getting Professor Delgadio in trouble for this. But, but most of the times, there's a strict order to things. But Professor Delgadio was somebody that would love to engage in conversation. He wasn't just the person who gave the lecture, he gave a discussion. he led a discussion, and he would openly ask his students to ask questions and challenge his thoughts, challenge their own thoughts. And through that, I found that once you would ask him one thing, then it would lead, oh, well, did you know about this? Or did you know about this? Or do you remember when this happened? And then you would go on to this different tangent, and you end up talking about churros and Disneyland when you really started the conversation about World War II. But in the end, even though you ended up with churros and Disneyland, it was still relevant to what you were talking about. And it was bringing history not from looking at it through, oh, it's something in the past, it doesn't affect us today, but it's looking at history as in a way that we could learn from it. What does Disneyland have to do with today? Well, a lot of people go there. But how did that spark up the idea of a theme park that influenced so many other theme parks throughout the world and the entertainment industry itself? So he took small ideas that we wouldn't bring back into relevance, but he said, it is relevant because of this. And he made history that much more exciting. I remember when we got to the World War II unit, I love World War II, I love World War II history. I'm a docent at a Civil War museum. That's not World War II, but I love war history anyways. But anyways, when we got to World War II, I was very, very excited. And I told him that I had a few items from my collection that I would love to bring in and show the class. And a few of those were my National Geographic collection from World War II, all the way spanning from 1939 to 1945. And I said if I could bring it to him and show the class, because I just love that this small book, though not really relevant news to today, tells the story of how people used to live long ago. And when I showed him the collection and I showed the class, he was obviously very happy, and so was the class. And my favorite part was the Coke advertisements that were really, really cool. Afterwards, he's like, come here after class. And he turned to me and he said, you have the makings of a great historian. And that right there is somebody who cares about his students. That right there is a teacher. George Washington once said that a man who serves in a post for his country serves in an honorable post. And Professor Delgadio definitely served that honorable post. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sarah, and I was a former student of Julian's. And I wanted to share you this little essay I wrote. I was a terrible essay writer when I took his class, so hopefully this will make up for that. I am sure all of you have had a person whom has given you an eternal relationship, and that relationship leaves you with a strong, overwhelming significance in your life. Or you may have yet to find someone like that. With Julian, I found such a great joy in the simplicity of just smiling. After the abruptness of the unbelievable news, I have had such a troubling time recollecting all of the conversations I had with Julian, flustered even. It's been just so hard to even mention his name. The run-ins I had that had resonated with me greatly were the ones that started and ended with a smile, which were, to tell the truth, all of the time. I tried to mention this one memory in particular to his wife, but I couldn't bring myself to do so because I was so emotionally distraught in the midst of an overbearing sorrow. Crying in front of her helped me realize I shouldn't have felt embarrassed before it had honored the memory of Julian. He had such a spiritual impact on my life that I cannot even begin to explain. Though he was my history professor, he taught beyond that. He shared his laughter and made some really pitiful puns that caused waves of giggling throughout the classroom. Those were some of the best memories I have of Julian, but there are a few times that stood out to me even more significantly. Before the fall semester came to a close, I had given a letter to Julian. It was more than just a typical thank you for being my teacher and a gift card. I told him that he was a man of great intelligence, and I was very lucky to be in his presence. He told me about his experiences of playing tennis avidly and before he had lost the ability to control his lower body. He called himself not able-bodied and mentioned that before it all, he could play tennis quite well as lifting weights. He spoke a lot about lifting weights because he always wanted to connect with me, as I am an aspiring strength coach. Having that coach mentality, I made sure that I addressed in the letter that what he said about himself is far from the truth. And I hope he does not mention it to me, to anyone, let alone himself ever again. As he rolled up to me on one wintry afternoon before his class, he thanked me multiple times and told me it was one of the most heartfelt things he had ever been told. The way I described why he should not say those derogatory things about himself is hard to explain, since he had the only copy of the letter, and I cannot put it to words what I had wrote over a year ago, because those memories are forever stowed away within Julian's spirit. But I remember the face that Julian had when he approached me that gloomy day. It was as though there was no such thing as clouds or gloominess. Julian's smile and thankfulness toward me lit up the whole environment that surrounded us. It had almost brought me to tears, and of course, thinking about it now will always make me choke up. And even Julian mentioned that telling him not to say harmful things toward himself had made him cry. 2 days before his death, I ran into him. I literally ran over to him as he was about to enter his classroom for one of his lectures that afternoon, because I really wanted to see him and be reminded what true happiness looks like, because Julian always had that way about him to make you smile indefinitely. Before I heard the news of his passing, before I was aware that he was suffering at all, he told me to come and visit him sometime in his office to chat about whatever subject. To think that an opportunity to speak to Julian slipped away from me so quickly was the most painful thing, and I made a promise to him that I would. It was very hard for me to know that I was invited to speak to someone who I wanted to know more about and have as a mentor for the rest of time. Just gone. So I do believe that opportunity has not entirely left me, because I do know that someday up in some heavenly office or room somewhere, I will have that conversation with Julian, or perhaps those many conversations, and that indeed is what makes the journey of life worthwhile. Rest well, my friend.
Good afternoon. My name is Ramon. I am a former student of Dr. Delgadio. I first met him in '92, history of modern America, and my mind was officially blown. I didn't realize that history was more than just one viewpoint until he taught me that. My first paper I wrote in that class, got it back, and two things stood out. One, there was an A on it, which up to that point I had never seen on anything that I had ever done. That was for other students, not for me. And then secondly, there was a little note scribbled at the bottom, and it said, "You are the voice of a new America." Didn't know what that meant. And my head was in another place at that time, so I dropped out. There's a but to this story. But because of Dr. Delgadio, I explored and I read and I educated myself. And every time I read something from Angela Davis or Malcolm X or Frederick Douglass, whatever, I always thought of him. 2 years ago, I decided to come back to school after years of working, raising a family, and I realized how much I love history. And first professor I sought out was Dr. Delgadio. First class I took was another history course of his. It was online, so I didn't get to see him, but there was a couple of instances where we ran into each other and said a few words. Professor Kiefer walked me over to his office one day, and I reminded him of that little note that he wrote, and he seemed a little embarrassed by it. But last year, I was in the T building for something, and he was in his office, and the door was open. I believe he was having a meeting with someone. I believe it was you. You're in there a lot. And I was this close to not doing it, but I saw him, and he smiled, and I smiled, and I walked in. And I finally got to tell him how much he inspired me, and that he's the reason why I came back to school, and that he's the reason why I'm majoring in history, and he's the reason why I'm going to work to get my credentials to teach history. And hopefully, I can be an iota of a teacher, as a person, as he is, and I hope I can honor his memory. Rest in peace, Professor Delgadio.
Good afternoon. I'm not a student, I'm a colleague. My name is Paul, and I'm a dean here at Long Beach City College. And since Julian's passing, I found myself reflecting on what he meant to me personally as somebody who came here to Long Beach City College in 1992, just a year after Julian started. And always smiling is how I remember and will always remember Julian. And he cared about people. That was what was significant about Julian. As I mentioned, I'm a dean. He even cared about administrators, as Rose will attest. But my interactions with Julian were always very positive. We recently opened up the V building, which was a significant event here on campus, and I knew Julian would be there, and he was. And I got to speak to him, and I got to shake that hand. And it was really, really special now that I reflect on it. But he said to me in a soft voice, "I know you had a lot to do with this. Thank you." And that's just who he was, right? He would give credit to people. He cared about people. I first started working with him when I was in the Grant area, and Julian did a project on cultural pluralism that actually used this fancy thing called the internet back in the 90s. And it was multimedia. And the reason I mention that is not only because it had to do with student equity and achievement, but it also had to do with technology and teaching. And he was always the first to move in that direction. And finally, he cared about you as a person. So personally, we won't call it a situation, but my son decided he was gonna major in history. Sorry to this section over here, but that's scary for a parent, right? You're like, what, history? How are you gonna get a job in history? So I sought out Julian first thing. And we sat down in the cafeteria and we had lunch. And Julian proceeded to tell me all the different jobs that you can get if you're a history major, one by one. And his excitement and enthusiasm made me realize that my son is going to sleep watching the History Channel at night for a reason, and he ought to follow his dreams. He is currently employed with the Irvine Company. Thank you, Julian. He's a wonderful man. I have very fond memories. Rest in peace.
Watch it there, buddy. Okay, there we go, we got it. I was in Julian's class, which is now being taught by Professor Estrada's student. And the last time I spoke to him, I asked him to give me a reading list to further my knowledge on California. And he says, "Have you ever read Ferlinghetti?" And I said, "A little bit." And he's like, "You should read the poem, I Am Waiting." So I go through my bookshelf and I find the book, but I don't bother reading it. Then I find out he passed away. I look at it, but I still don't bother reading it. So now I'm here to read it for you. I haven't read it yet, and I know he has. So it'll feel like I'm traveling with my eyes with the same words that he read. So I'll read it to you. I am waiting. I am waiting for my case to come up, and I'm waiting for a rebirth of wonder. And I'm waiting for someone to really discover America in a whale. And I'm waiting for the discovery of a new symbolic Western frontier. And I'm waiting for the American eagle to really spread its wings and straighten up and fly right. And I'm waiting for the war to be fought, which will make the world safe. And I'm waiting for the final withering away of all governments. And I'm perpetually awaiting a rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for my number to be called, and I'm waiting for the Salvation Army to take over. And I'm waiting for the meek to be blessed and inherit the earth without taxes. And I'm waiting for a way to be devised to destroy all nationalisms without killing anybody. And I'm waiting for lovers and weepers to lie down together again in a new rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for the great divide to be crossed, and I'm anxiously waiting for the secret of eternal life to be discovered by an obscure general practitioner. And I am waiting for the storms of life to be over. And I'm waiting to set sail for happiness. And I'm waiting for a reconstructed Mayflower to reach America with its picture story and TV rights sold in advance to the natives. And I'm waiting for the lost music to sound again in the lost continent in a new rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for the day that maketh all things clear. And I'm waiting retribution for what America did to Tom Sawyer. And I'm waiting for Alice in Wonderland to retransmit to me her total dream of innocence. And I am waiting for Aphrodite to grow live arms at a final disarmament conference in a new rebirth of wonder. I am waiting to get some intimations of immortality by recollecting my early childhood. And I'm waiting for the green mornings to come again. Youth's dumb green fields come back again. And I am waiting for the last long careless rapture. And I am perpetually waiting for the fleeing lovers on the Grecian urn to catch up with each other at last and embrace. And I am awaiting perpetually and forever a renaissance of wonder.
Hello, my name is Jessica. I'm a former student of Julian's. I didn't prepare anything to say today because I'm a senior at Cal State Long Beach and I have a really heavy workload, and trying to think about what to say was giving me a lot of anxiety, so I didn't. I put it off, and sitting here hearing all these wonderful stories that y'all have to share about Julian think of a lot of the different ways that he impacted my life. I think most notably that his class, his team taught course with Lisa Orr on American pluralism, was the first class I took here. And I felt like coming to a community college was a really transitional time for me, having just felt like a failure coming out of a UC school, not making it. But having an opportunity to sit in a small, compared to a giant lecture hall at a UC school for a freshman, a small room with 50 students in it, and to have your instructor 2 feet away from you, practically speaking right into your face. Such a unique experience to be at a community college, to be in a small room with professors who are part of the university in such a unique way, but even more impactful because it was Julian, and he was relatable and funny, and I didn't care about history. It's not my thing. But, I was in that class, and it made sense to me that history was related to all of the things that I was interested in. And I think it helped me transform into the student that I am now, that always raises their hand, always has a question or a challenge. And I wasn't that student when I was in his class. I don't know if I even spoke, but I do now. And I think it's because of that, having that chance to be in a room with someone so encouraging. I know he did that for a lot of students, so I thank him.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tabby Larson. I'm in the honors program, and I'm also the ambassador liaison to the outreach and president's ambassadors here at LBCC, so I'm very active on campus. And growing up, my father always told me I was a loudmouth liberal with a forked tongue, so I was never really sure if I should embrace that or not. So fortunately enough, I came to LBCC and discovered the wonderful honors program, and in the different orientations, I watched Dr. Delgadio speak of his History 11H class. So fortunately, I enrolled in it just this spring, and I met him in February, and I told him I'd been watching him over the years, and I'd been waiting and was really excited for it, and I enjoyed the class, but the first essay I got back, I got a B on it. And I know most people are probably like, oh, Tabby, that'd be great. But actually, if you're in the honors program, you understand it's not. You want an A. So, thus started my frequent visits to Dr. Delgadio's office. And I remember the first time walking into that office and just thinking, wow, I feel like part of me is on these walls. I agree with so much of what's here, and I cannot wait to have an office like this. And I recognized one of the posters over there, and there'd be times I'd be in his office for 3 hours, and then I'd look at him and say, oh my God, I was just here for 3 hours talking to you. Am I bothering you? And he was always just so kind. He was never, no, Tabby, I love talking with you. And I just felt so comfortable with him. And I was always able to just talk things through out loud, and he would help me get through a thought process. And I ended up getting A's on the rest of my essays, and I got an A in his class. So overall, that was a success. But Dr. Delgadio was one of the 2 professors that really changed my life here, the other being Paul Savoy. But Dr. Delgadio really just made a huge difference for me, and I'm a lot more confident in being that loudmouth liberal with a forked tongue because of people like Dr. Julian Delgadio. And I remember telling everyone, even before I had his class, to take him because of just listening to him speak for the few minutes. And, I can stand with that because his class was truly amazing, how he spoke about things. A lot of people that aren't interested in history talk about how it's boring, it's not useful, but Dr. Delgadio really redefined that, and I think even for those who weren't interested in history, they could follow along with him and find a love for it because of how he talked about it. He made it relevant to people of all ages, and when I heard of the passing, I kind of collapsed, but that's another story. But I just want to put my thanks out there for Dr. Julian Delgado and the rest of Long Beach City College I love how we have a collective energy here, and we've all been very supportive because I know this is a tragic event to this school because he was so important to us. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Martin, and specifically Martin because Julian and I both worked on History of Chicanos in Long Beach project last semester, and through that we got really close, and he became a mentor and an idol to me, because he believed in me more than I believed in myself. He always told me that the work that I was doing was actually worthwhile, and I mean, he was a historian, so me actually researching the history and him telling me that the work that I was doing was actually something that should be valued, and he valued it himself, it made me happy, because as Professor Savoy can say, is I'm my own biggest critic, and I never believe that anything I do is good enough. And a man with a doctorate told me that my work was good enough, that what I was doing was something worth time, and Julian made a big difference in my life, and Julian made me, I'm going to continue with this project, despite not having my mentor here with me. Julian gave me all the tools for me to finish this project, and so that this project can continue going on elsewhere. And we're going to try to still continue and make this project something that we can take from here on campus and try to put it into the Historical Society in the way that he would have intended it to be. And so we'll continue with that, him and I, because he's still here with me, because he gave me all the tools that I needed to finish this project, and I'm going to do it.
Hi, I'm Elaine. I'm a new student here. I'll deal with it. I'm short, sorry. I'll just screw it up. I'm not talented. I don't have anything prepared because I was working past my anxiety to come up here. I'm a new student, and he's one of the first classes I took here. I had a lot of anxiety about coming here. As a disabled person, I did not get through high school very well. I basically dropped out, switched to online school, barely graduated. But he made me feel like the only conversation we had was when I was giving him my disability paperwork. We made jokes about disability, and I felt welcomed and not like this was going to go poorly like it did before. He said I could do this, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you for making me feel welcome and not like I'm going to screw this up like I screwed everything else up. I really appreciate it, and I thank my other teachers for that as well too. He's a great person, and I hope I can kind of follow that path and be a good person for people to look up to. Thank you.
Hi everyone, many of you know me. My name is Lisa Orr, and I'm a historian here at Long Beach City College. And from the very start of my employment here, I really was friends with Julian. He's such a warm person, as so many of you have said. As I've been sitting here thinking, could I actually get up here and speak? Been wavering, thinking, I don't really know if I could do it. But I do feel called to share with you, I think, the experience that so many of us are talking about, which is the fact that Julian was such a warm person, and I team taught with him, and it's one Jessica just mentioned, wherever she is in that class, and I remember you very well. I can honestly say that team teaching with Julian was one of the highlights of my career. It was, I think, magical. Magical is the best word. He was hilarious. we had so much fun. We would banter in that class. Do you remember that? We would go back and forth and like jabbing at each other in the best spirited kind of way. We would talk about history in the class, before the class, after the class. As the mother of 2 young children, I also, like Janae, wondered, could I possibly be creating new lectures when I had children in preschool and early elementary school? And I remember right as I was starting the class thinking, oh, Lisa, what have you gotten yourself into? This is, Julian, was always researching and writing and reading new things. This is at a time when my children weren't even sleeping through the night, and I'm trying to write new lectures. But he was always supportive, never failed to find something good that I had done in the class. Occasionally he'd say, I want to talk about that part of your lecture, and I think, oh no, you're right, it was not, But he was so supportive, and what I got from teaching with him was not only his passion for history, his warmth, which we've all talked about that is absolutely the center of who he was, but just this sense, like we've all said, that he could make you believe that you could do it, you were powerful. This sense of you could change the world as a student, as a teacher, that we are truly powerful. And Gilbert, where are you? I love what Gilbert said. You brought me to tears. I think for me, the way to honor Julian's life is to think about how each of us can serve, how each of us can make a difference, and it's something I've always believed in, and I feel a renewed sense of, how can we go out and make a difference and be fired up by this very, very special person that we all have the privilege to know and to love. So thank you to all of you for being here, and thank you for being part of the community that can share in this grief as we work our way through this. My friend, and I loved him deeply. Thanks.
It's really hard to be the person to follow what we've just experienced. Just an amazing outpouring of love, of good feelings, of respect, of admiration, of commitment to carrying on the tremendous legacy of intellectualism and activism and hope. And, so many things that I could key on to right now, but I think probably one of the best ways that we could find to summarize all of the amazing sentiments that have been expressed so far today about Julian, about who he is to do something that he would have loved to have been right in the middle of right now, and I'm sure that he is. And that is to engage in a good old-fashioned jam. Now, I don't know about you. I had no idea how talented my colleagues in the Department of History and Political Science are. I mean, look at this ensemble that has been created. And so at this time, we would like to invite anyone, I guess probably anyone who's not working a camera right now, but anyone who has been involved in the planning of our event today and who would like to please come up and join our wonderful ensemble. And I ask all of you assembled here to use your best singing in the shower voice. Because, and I don't want anyone to say, oh no, I don't sing, I'm not a singer. We are all singers, especially when we feel the inspiration that Julian brings us. So again, if you've had any involvement with this, please come up and join our ensemble. For the rest of you, please raise your voices with us as we have a reprise
Camille?
singing once again of Julian's favorite song, Imagine.
Camille, Karen.
As a reminder, the lyrics are on the back, so there's no excuse.
Brian, some of those students, please come up.
Yes.
Come up. We're here to honor you and the legacy that Julian is leaving with all of us.
I don't think it's a surprise that this song would be one of Julian's favorites. After all, he comes from just the right time, the right generation. He was 14 when the Beatles showed up in America. He was 21 when this song was written. And of course, this song represents so much, I think, of what Julian was about. He's been described as a progressive today, and that's what he was. And to me, a progressive there's two sides to a progressive. There's the side of dissatisfaction, the sense of, we can make things better than they are right now. We shouldn't have to accept things the way they are. But the other side is one of hope and optimism, and I think this song speaks to that. And that's what I really think about with Julian, as someone who was constantly encouraging and pushing students and colleagues and friends to agency, that sense that we can make this place a better place. So do we have our group here? We don't want to build this up too much. We're just historians and political scientists, right? We're not we're not the music department, but
We're not quitting our day job.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no country. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. Ooh, you may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one.
Let's all be dreamers for Julian.
Yes, give yourselves a hand. Some wonderful, inspired singing there. Now, to wrap things up for today, we have more thank yous than we can possibly imagine to give out at this stage, but we will keep it brief. I think that one of our students who spoke, Tabby, summed it up best when she's talked of the amazing energy of Long Beach City College. And in the couple of weeks since Julian transitioned, we have seen that energy come together to surge around all of us, to embrace us. And we have received so much wonderful support and assistance as we put together this program for today. All the folks in media services and the Faculty Resource Center and Camille and just, the list just goes on and on and on. We've been embraced by your love. We've been embraced by your assistance. We've been embraced by your heart. And we are so very grateful. And I would like to give my personal thanks to Mary Markey, who is probably the greatest colleague and friend that I can ever hope to have. This has been quite a journey that we're working through together, and we hope that today we were able to remind you of some memories, to bring a smile to your face, and to begin the process of helping us all move forward together, embraced by the incredible energy of Long Beach City College. Mary, do you have anything you want to?
Just thank you. Thank you for all coming, and let's let 2015 be Julian's year.
That's exactly it. All of us in history and political science were speaking the other day, and we came up with the idea that we were committing to making this Julian's year, that we were going to go that extra mile, give that extra oomph in our classes, and just do what we can to live his spirit of intellectualism and activism. And we challenge you to join us in making this Julian's year, whether you're a student, faculty, staff, administrator, whoever you are. Let's make this year count for Long Beach City College and for Julian. Thank you very much.